Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. The thumbnail is not incorrect. We're going to talk about Yellowstone and Dungeons and Dragons and Bastions. Yeah, in current in the current community, there have been many people talking about the new 2024 rules for Dungeons and Dragons, and one of the big things that have been grabbing people's attention in the current rules are bastions. Now, in classic Dungeons and Dragons, there have always been some element of players retiring. And when characters retiring, the players want their characters to retire. And that means, if you're a fighter, you're creating a fort or a castle. If you're a wizard, you're creating a wizard's tower or something like that. And there is a style of play in which, in fantasy, in which the characters recruit people to their cause, and the game goes from being very external, adventuring in the countryside and dungeon delving, and becomes very internal. And the one thing that captured my attention in terms of this kind of talk is, that sounds great, but what do we do? In other words, it's great to have a character that is a religious figure and wants to open up a cathedral or a monastery or something of that nature. A character may have like a rogue-like character that wants to establish a criminal syndicate or something. But what do we do? There's very little information for a dungeon master, game master, to run a game. Now, this isn't going to be reserved for Dungeons and Dragons, but I thought I would share out. I'm enjoying the visualization of creating these things, so I decided to make a visual manifestation of the concept of how do we create adventures, how do we create improv, how do we prep for long-term adventuring when players are at home. So I very quickly came up with a geometric display of my ideas. I also have a D20 table, so just in case you're looking at this and you're like, I don't get it, I don't understand what's going on. I do have a D20 table which we will go through at the end of this, because I did want to talk about like the different aspects and whatnot, and I arranged them in terms of how close generally and how far away I feel like some of these various aspects of this visualization would go. So in the very middle, let me go backwards so we're all on the same page, so that we all have a definition. The television show Yellowstone is about the largest ranch in the United States, and they are ranchers. From what I understand, very generally, farmers deal with fruits and vegetables. Ranchers deal with live animals. And that's very, very generalized because there's a lot of overlap. But essentially, ranchers deal with live animals. And of course, in our mundane world, there are like cattle ranchers and ranchers with horses and whatnot. And Yellowstone happens to be one of the largest ranches. To be honest, they make a point of the Dutton family and the head of Dutton family sitting on his porch and saying that his ranch is larger than his vision towards the horizon. It's this huge thing. In reality, I believe there is a ranch not called Yellowstone, but is of a similar type. And it's all right. Don't worry about the algobots. But you're very kind. Thank you so much. So I got to defeat those algo monsters. So this ranch, the television show about the ranch, is about how this family, the Dutton family, despite all of their their inner turmoil fights off people who want to get access to this ranch. And there's a bit of a messy, I personally think, that despite the fact that in the television show, this Dutton family is like they're like the ranching version of an organized crime family. And there's we all know here in the States, if we want to be honest, there's a dark legacy when it comes to ranching and whatnot. But I remembered hearing about a review, and someone in a very short amount of time was talking about, like, oh, the show is just about these ranchers that fight off like economic rivals and family rivals and business rivals and things like that. And I was like, yeah, larger than his field of vision, he's a lord of more than he can see. Yeah, exactly. So I thought we would use that as a backdrop with the Yellowstone television show airing on a couple of streaming platforms and coming back after like a 2-year hiatus or something, as well as what's going on. So here in the very middle, we have the Bastion, Yellowstone, home. And that is the location where most of this would take place. And around that, in the very back of this, is like a little brown square. And that's basically like homeland, home ground. And I have a number of these geometrics to show like kind of like how close they would be. So, of course, let's deal with things that are very common in tabletop fantasy Dungeons and Dragons. And we have our 4 little ovals here. Crime, vices, and rogues to our slight upper left here. And this is where in our homeland. Now, how players relate to being home is going to be up to you and them. Are they the nobility, the rulers of this place? Did they establish this place? Are they agents of this home? Meaning, like, have the players traveled the wide world and decided to live here, and now they are hired, they're official badge wearing, handcuff carrying agents of this place? Or do they just find a place to be nice and be to want to retire and have a homestead, and now trouble finds them? So that's going to be up to how you want to run your game. So let's go through. There's 20 of these, so we're going to go through them very quickly. We've got crime, vices, and rogues. This is crime has moved into the region, and the player's job is to shut the crime down, or at least figure out why there's crime happening, what kinds of crimes are happening, and stop that. Very procedural, if you like to do it that way. Procedural meaning like each adventure would just be stopping one crime. Like a television show. It doesn't have to be, though, but it can be like, why is crime spiking? Is it because of visitors? Is it because of a natural resource that people want to steal from? Are there very rich people coming here, and they make for very great victims? Or has this place always had a criminal element, like bandits or pickpockets or something of that nature, or even something even greater, assassins and extortion, money laundering, I don't know, heck, even human trafficking or something of that nature. To the slight upper right of our Bastion, we have Arcana, Wizards, and Rituals. And this is the more fantastical part of this. Are there rituals and spells happening in your homestead that you are unaware of? If they are happening and you're unaware of it, how dangerous is it? Are these things minor, like students learning magic and something gets out of hand? Is it are arcane rituals or magic that were here a long time ago, like an ancient curse or something of that nature? Or has a wizard's college opened up that the players are questioning? Or maybe they opened up their own and the students are acting a little bit out of hand or whatnot. This is more of the very fun part, where something arcane gets out of hand and the players have to put a stop to it. And it could be fun, strange, wild monsters running around trying to eat all the pastries, and it could just be very fun that way. Or it could be far more serious, where an ancient curse is now causing this location to, I don't know, be swallowed up, or a dimensional door opens up and spills monsters into the city state or whatever, and the players have to put a stop to it. To the bottom left, we have cults, factions, and faith. And this is, I kind of put this all together because the factions don't necessarily need to be religiously bound. They could be political factions. They may be like nobility or something. But these are basically all the people that are speaking up against the player characters and their desires to keep things at a norm. Oftentimes, players represent the chaos in the world fighting against the system. And that's very common, right? There's a totalitarian system, the players are badasses, and they're coming into town to flex some muscle for the individuals that can't speak for themselves, and so the player characters are there. But when players have a homestead, a bastion, a kingdom, a castle, or whatever, wizard's tower, they're there to set the stage for what is and is not acceptable. And so cults, factions, and faith are maybe a religion moves in, or a religion the players are familiar with. They're expecting them to tithe to them, to follow certain rules the players don't feel like following, or something of that nature. And of course, you always have to have political enemies who tacitly, like very publicly, or speaking behind their backs, are saying things against what the players' intentions are, and what their and how they are leading the people. And the players themselves may not have any vulnerability to the things that are happening around them, but it's very important for the players to understand that public perception is very important. So now to the slight bottom right of our bastion, we have coins, guilds, and nobles. And this is all about, this is the movers and shakers. This is money. This is influence. And how does the community how do the people there living there earn a living? And are the players allowing them to earn that living? Are there nobles that live here or from afar? And where do they fit in? Do they have a voice at all? Do the players even want them to have a voice? And if they take that voice away, how much is this changing around tradition, or who is next in leadership if the players aren't there, and so on and so forth? How fair are people being paid, if they are being paid at all? What about the guilds? The guilds are like unions in many ways. If you need the stonemasons, and the stonemasons are ignored because they need to go to the stone quarries, and there's monsters at the stone quarry. Who handles that? And how long do you make the guilds wait for the permission to do something before the guilds up and leave, or disband, or go to the highest bidder, or refuse to do work? And so that's where this comes in. And you could always, really, there's monsters attached to darn near all this stuff. So, yeah. Moving on, now we're going to go in a big circle with these 9 other squares around, or 8 other squares around the outer portion of our locale, our bastion, our I don't know, fort. What's the other ones? Fighters had forts and castles. Wizards had wizards' towers and libraries or colleges. Clerics had monasteries, synagogues, churches, and whatnot. And rogues had like criminal organizations. But we don't have to be that specific. But it's kind of cool to think about it that way. At least my old head remembers those rules from original like AD&D and moving forward. And I'm sure it existed to some extent from each iteration. So over here, the top left, we have build and construct. And this kind of adventuring is pretty cool because the players get to build and construct their bastion. But adventure-wise, where do the materials come from? Who's skilled enough to build it? How long does it take? And where are you building it? And all of that you can have complications with. Maybe the players have to clear out a region. Dungeon clearing is a thing. There's a clearing things is actually on here. You'll see that in a minute when we get to the very outer side portion of it. Where do the materials come from? Stone, wood. What other materials are there? I don't know. Ceramics, metals, things like that. Where does it come from? And could there be banditry trying to prevent that happening? Is there sabotage for it? Who are the best people to construct this place? And why do they or do they not want to be here to help or not help the player characters? Maybe the dwarven members of the I don't know, the five kings up in the mountains really do want to help the player characters, but traditionally they're not supposed to. Or they really do want to help the player characters, but the five kings are like, hell no, we're not sending our best dwarven dwarven architects down to you. They're here for us, for us, by us, and whatnot. Yeah, we're not doing that. And so that can have a great effect on the types of game or game type events that you want to have for your Bastion level gaming style. And then we have at the very top weather geological events. Now, what I mean by that is worrying about hurricanes, rain, forest fires, floods, earthquakes, snowstorms, those geological and weather events, and just how to handle that. And some can be kind of cool, right? Like maybe there are travelers that are very important traveling along roads that lead to this place. The players need to leave home, go out, rescue or save or make sure they're safe coming back in, because everyone knows that the snows are coming in for the winter, and you got to get everybody in before the snows block the trade routes or something of that nature, and so on and so forth. Maybe mudslides or avalanches or rock slides or something block up a trade route. Players go out to do it. They realize that, was this a real geological event, or is someone taking advantage of it, or did those pesky kobolds, dump rocks down into the gully just to get the players to come out of their home, and then hilarity ensues as there's a battle or something like that. So weather events are always very, very common, and even the most minor seasonal changes can have dramatic effects on a population, such as where they get their food and water and shelter and things like that. You'll see that coming as we come around the corner here. Upper right, we have disease, pestilence, and curses, and people get sick. How do the players handle it? Do they have the ability to heal the people? Maybe, but maybe it's more important for the population to have the ability to care for themselves, or hire someone or convince a faction of people to help the people. Maybe this is just a normal thing where there's a disease that starts to spread, and how do you protect the people? Do you have lepers colonies? Are there homes that are emptied out, buildings emptied out, so you have a place for hospice and whatnot? Is this an actual curse from the ancient undead, because this bastion was built on top of their haven? Or maybe someone was punished, and in their dying words before they were punished, brought before the council or something, they cast out words to punish everyone and whatnot, and the players are now dealing with it. But yeah, this could be very important. And again, with player characters being like badasses, it doesn't mean that they will be threatened or affected by the disease, although you could dangle that in the air. But for the most part, if important people are now sick or their family is sick, they can't focus on their work. And so now the player characters may have to step in and say, hey, you go home, you deal with your loved ones, we will pick up the slack, and whatever that slack could be. Maybe the players aren't used to project managing. To the very right of our landscape here, we have shelter, food, and water. Very important for a community to have. And the shelter portion of it does go to building and constructing and maintaining, making sure as the population grows, do they have a place to live? And of course, having clean and the nutrient food and water sources is very important. Poisoned water, um, digging a well, having wells dug, aquifers, aqueducts, and how the water is used for harvesting and plants and whatnot, and even food sources. Now we're going to talk about Yellowstone. Yellowstone is a ranch, and as a ranchers, they both uh, buy, sell, raise, and train horses, and they also are a cattle ranch. And in one storyline, rival ranchers tried to poison the food source of the cattle, and it was affecting the value of the cattle. And then another one, there was some kind of a disease or something, maybe because of the plants that the cattle were eating. So they had to move the cattle to a distant part of the Yellowstone ranch. Now, we think of ranch as like, oh, I can see the fencing. In Yellowstone, the television show, it literally goes to the horizon and beyond. So they had to pack up their things, get on the horses, and literally corral the the cattle, tens of thousands of cattle, or how, I don't know how many heads, millions or whatever, and you have to move the cattle from one place with the terrible food source to the place where they can graze with a better food source. And if the players are, especially if the players are agents of their bastion, meaning like they're not necessarily the leaders, but they are agents of the leaders, maybe like the nobility or the people that were elected or something like that. This is also very good, and also what I like about bastion level, and I'm using the word bastion just because it's for Dungeons and Dragons, but for homestead uh, level gaming, it's not really about hit points and the players, right? It's about taking an account of the players defending the people and the food and the resources, and then that becomes the vector of threat. So the bad guys may not be able to hurt the players, but they sure can poison, steal, corrupt, destroy food and or water sources and or shelter, and then that makes another vector of threat for the player characters to have to worry about when those damn kobolds. I don't know why I'm picking on the kobolds here, but when the damn kobolds start stealing, going after the caravans and the harvest and whatnot, and taking it for themselves. And this also is we have there's, what monster is it? The Ankheg, the old classic Dungeons and Dragons Ankheg, the acid spitting, half insectoid, half crab like praying mantis animals that always seem to want to dig underneath the farmers' crops and stuff. And this might be a thing where the players have to go down into the underground, or worry about Ankhegs poking their heads up out of the ground to steal the local crops and spit acid at the player characters. It's kind of cool. Now at the bottom right of our square Bastion style thing, we have arts, legacy, and society. And more than just arts, legacy, and society is tradition. And how do the players handle these things? People love to celebrate their wins and have a remembrance for their losses. This is about coronations. This is about music and art and monuments and family legacy, children, births, graduations, dealing with all of that. And do the players create their own new traditions? Do they ignore the old traditions? How much honor do they give them? Are there people who are not being honored among the arts or having a legacy or included in society, and the players need to you're included too? Or are there people the players don't want to be in part of this? Very fun to have like monuments and songs written about the players, but what about that war that the players were in before they got to their name level? Maybe they were 5th, 6th, 7th level when they engaged in adventuring, and now that they're 9th, 10th, 11th level and they've got their name level, you guys know what I mean. But if you're old enough, you know what name level meant. And you get the name level, and now they're talking about the horrors of what was done to get to this point. Yeah, they're like, it was a genocide against the goblinoids, and the PCs are like, you're safe because of us. which which brings me to the problematic portion to me of Yellowstone. Yes, our main characters in the television show Yellowstone are the protagonists in that storyline, but that land technically belonged to other people who had a culture that didn't believe in land ownership, and that ruling, that cultural standard was ignored, so that, here in the United States, 99.9% of us are outside. I'm making up that percentage, but we're outsiders coming into a place where there were already rules established. And so, where this bastion is built, were there people who felt like it belonged to them in the first place? What actions were done by the player characters, or by the people who established this land, and are those old hatreds still there, and do they have a purpose? Do they have a reason for being mad? And is there any logical, or is there any way for the people that exist there now, as the player characters being agents of those people, and the people who used to live there before, who want to come back? And is this a legacy thing where it's constant warfare? Here we get to the very bottom: spies, infiltration, and sabotage. Does this turn into terrorist activity, or is there a neighboring community or nation or feudal society that's trying to infiltrate to figure out how this place is being handled? Do the PCs send out spies to someplace else to find out about their neighbors and their enemies and whatnot? And so, all of this is in Bastion level adventuring and such, especially if there's spies inside the world, inside the player characters' homes, whether they're doppelgangers or illusionists or just masked individuals or agents or something like that, trying to come in and sabotage all the other stuff, like the building, sabotage their water source, their food, the buildings. They are doing a propaganda manipulation of speaking up, with the infiltration, speaking up against the player characters and their right to control and protect this community. And what do the players do with those spies? Do they let everybody know that they don't want spies here, and they have a public display or execution or something? Or are those people detained in the dungeon and questioned and interrogated? Do the players become very much like the people that used to be here when the player characters freed all the individuals that were improperly incarcerated or something of that nature? And then and we have two more here. To the bottom left, we have war battles and skirmishes. Anyway, this is the very classic, standing on the walls of the castle being besieged by enemies. And this time, instead of the players, trying to climb up or find a secret way to get into the castle, this time the players are in the Alamo, and they are not trapped, but they are defending inside from enemies from the outside. And this is very much like your classic escalation. Maybe there are enemies that are coming across the battlefield with spears and long swords, and then it starts to escalate with siege machines and flying monsters and digging under the ground, and so on and so forth. It starts to get bigger and bigger and escalate. Maybe the wars and battles and skirmishes are testing the waters of the player character's resolve to get them to leave. Maybe there's a decoy, a distraction. Maybe it's meant for the player characters to go east and defend their east when there are other enemies trying to infiltrate from the west, and so on. Also, who are the enemies? Are they nobility that wants to take back their noble right because of their bloodline, and the player characters are trying to bring in their modern day egalitarianism into a world that doesn't really respect that, or has this been a war that's been ready to brew, and the evil lich dragon vampire fiendish lord, you know, writ large is like, finally the player characters are settled, it's their home, and now we're going to assemble our enemies and go after, assemble all of our assets and go after the player characters in a big so-called final battle or something. Lastly, we have like aftermath, repairs, and recovery. And the adventure part of this, yes, many times you can do this in downtime, but when it comes to aftermath, repairs, and recovery, it can be, repairing and rebuilding what was already there, like the aqueduct, like getting the fields planted for the new harvest. And but it's not just recovery and repairing physical things, which is cool, but also the recovery psychologically and socially and economically of things that have been destroyed. Maybe the homestead has already been this way from weather and geological events or diseases and pestilence, or maybe because of food, shelter, and water that's missing and whatnot. And the player characters are coming into a place that's been destroyed, and now they are rebuilding, they're repairing all the things that are lost. And so that can be an adventure unto itself. So those insectoid ankhegs that were spitting acid and stealing the harvest, now the players have to figure out, okay, we can go down into the den of the ankhegs and destroy the queen mother, but what about the food? That the food is still destroyed. The land has been, you can't grow anything on the land because all the acid being spit out by the ankhegs. So now what do we do? Do we go to our neighbors and make a deal to spread our resources thin? Are there magical ways to get the land to become fertile, that or whatnot? And what about the psychological aspects of things? Do the people trust the player characters? Have the player characters done things that the people have viewed and looked at and they're like, you guys are more brutal than the enemies that we were hoping you would fight? That's, do the ends justify the means? And so project management in your fantasy RPG, work at play, the ultimate punishment for players. No min-max metagaming or I'll ruin your escapism. Exactly. Yeah, I know you want to go on adventure, you want to go out adventuring and stuff like that, but guess what? You need to send these emails out. Yeah, I know you're a wizard. You can send them out, mentally or whatever. All right, so let's get to the outer regions here. Before we get into our little triangles, we're going to go to our squares that are unattached, and these are things that will draw the players. What I'm thinking, draw the players away from home for maybe days, maybe even weeks, and then we're going to get into the triangles in the very, very outer parts, which kind of bring the players to not even want to be home any longer. So we're going to go over here to the left, and it's fetch quest. This is a very common and useful tool, though, in your back pocket, especially when you don't have anything ready, that the players are the only ones able to leave home, go out, and fetch the thing. For those who are brand new to gaming, a fetch quest is basically a capture the flag event. It's go out, go on a quest to get the MacGuffin, bring the MacGuffin back. Little derogatory, like a dog fetching a ball. It's very much adventurers going out, finding a thing, bringing it back. Now, a fetch quest can be about people, places, and things. When it comes to people, it's the rescue the prince or princess, right? You rescue people who are away from your home. Characters have to pack up their stuff and go out to get those people back. And it could be that they were traveling here in the first place, but got waylaid, stuck, kidnapped by bandits or something like that. Those are for people. For places, when it comes to places in a fetch quest, it's not necessarily bringing the place back home, but it's basically going there, making sure it's safe, and then getting back home. And what you're bringing back home is the idea of safety. So let's say to the, well, we're here. Let's say to the west, to the northwest of your territory, since that's here on this diagram, The goblinoids have moved into your allies' region. So for your fetch quest, you basically go out, stop them, maintain diplomatic relations, and you come back home. Which brings me to the one below it, which is proxy rescue protection. And that is, instead of going out and grabbing the person, place, or the thing, and the thing could be a magic sword, a crown, a magical ring, usually something arcane. It doesn't have to be. It could be getting important papers. It could be bringing back a ancient text. Heck, bringing back an important monument, something very important to the people, like, I don't know, a religious book, or a statue that was here that was knocked down and stolen and defaced or something, and the people want that back because it's very important to them. Maybe there was an ancient sailing ship, the very first ship that ever landed on these distant shores, and the people that live here want that ship back to put back into the city square because that's where it belongs or something. So we go down here to the bottom left square, proxy rescue and protection, and that's the players have to go out, and they are the proxy arm of the nation state, whoever they represent, and they're here to rescue and protect people that are away from their home. So they protect their neighbors. Hey, listen, neighbors, we're not telling you what to do, but you needed us, so we're coming here to help protect you. Now, the protection could be from enemies and monsters. That's very common, but it could also be, again, weather events, forest fires, earthquakes, things like that. You need our help. We're going to go across the mountain range or through the valley, meet you on the other side, help protect you, and then we'll come back home. To the right, away from our main squared defensive castle or something like this, our homestead, we have cleanse, clear, and eradicate. Real easy stuff, right? This is monsters have moved in. Player characters need to pack up their stuff, be Billy Badasses, go out and cleanse, clear, or eradicate some kind of evil or something. Now, the cleanse, clearing, and eradicating could be physical enemies that we know of, like, again, the goblinoids, the alien species, the enemies, the monsters that are growing and planting seeds or whatever. But it could also be something spiritual, like ghosts and wraiths and whatnot, to consecrate an area that's been corrupted. Also, the clearing portion of this could be someplace that's overgrown, and for the defense of everyone, including trade routes and whatnot, a place needs to be cleared out. And so there may be NPCs that are here whose only job is to, like cartographers and surveyors and other people, to clear the place out. The players are protecting them so that the place remains clear and whatnot. And this could be seasonal, or it could be like due to migration or something like that. Monsters seem to want to come back here over and over again. Take that out. And then but we also have diplomacy, trade, and parlaying, and that is where we have ourselves mage management mass emailer system. What spell would that be? Magic missile with a note attached? I don't know. There is a message spell where you point your finger and you can speak in someone's ear, but it's probably more telepathic. Although, I don't know, telepathic spam? Like, or you set up a telepathic, I'm no longer home email system. I try to contact, the player character's like, I contact my mentor mentally with my telepathic connection. And the mentor's like, I'm not here right now, but if you leave your name and number, I'm in the lower planes. When I get back, I'll answer your email questions. But that could be a thing, right? Diplomacy, trade, parlaying, we know about this. The neighbor has certain situations going on. We need to talk to those people about the thing. And again, depending on what level the player characters are at, are they literally the movers and shakers of this land, and they are the people who are establishing the diplomacy, or are the player characters agents, and they're just there to protect the people who really are in the diplomacy? So if they're just agents, the players could be watching out for assassins and assassins. I can't think of anything else, but you get the point, right? Like the players have to leave home, go to a place. Maybe there's a neutral territory on the border of both nation states, and this also has to deal with trade. Again, trade routes. Maybe this every place needs something from someone. It could be skilled individuals. It could be lumber. It may be iron nails or something. I don't know. It could be those sailing ships to come into the bay that the player characters have established their homestead. But whatever the case may be, there's the trading and parlaying of your neighbors. Even to the point of maybe the players have to or desire to make relations with like the lizard folk that live in the swamp, even though a couple levels before that they were complete enemies. But now, because the players are looking out for other people, now we've got to come to the table and sit down. And so that's the trade, diplomacy, trade, and parlaying. Now, as I'm pointing out each of these, am I coming up with actual adventures and whatnot? No. But I think these are shorthands for like, all right, the players have a castle. What do we do? I don't know. But using this, you can say, okay, I got an adventure. You guys are on the road. You just started out that way. You're on the road. You've left home because you have to go out and clear or eradicate an uprising of these new, what are some good monsters? I don't know. The Boulets are moving back into the dry fields of this Arizona, New Mexico-like region, and the Boulets are digging holes and whatnot, and they're coming in, and the PCs are like, oh no, I hate those monsters. But okay, we got to go in and save the people because they're all encamped on top of the mesas and plateaus and pillars that are out here, and we got to figure out how to get them down, get the people back home, and also make this place safe. And realize, like, why do the Boulets keep coming back? Because they're breeding grounds. Those damn things are dangerous. All right, to the triangles to the very, very left. Sometimes when players, and maybe the players get a little bit bored, or they kind of don't want to have their home place, they don't want to be in Yellowstone any longer. What are things that can draw them very far away for long periods of time, or even want to make them give up all of this, and to use that as like to change the rhythm of the gaming if you're doing home-based gaming, and that is duty calls. So somewhere, somehow, some kind of way, something calls the players away from home for a long period of time. And this is a good way to reset the home, so when the players come back, there's more things for them to play with. Someone has messed with their sandbox, and we need to figure out what's going on. And if players are always home, some players turtle up. Players can get into the idea of like, not only is my character home, I never sleep, and I'm always watching everything. And you're like, no, come on, let's have a little bit of verisimilitude. You gotta leave home sometime, and you gotta go to sleep and whatnot. So these are some things. So duty calls, any wizards, knights, warlocks, clerics, heck, even rangers or something. Sometimes they have a duty. You get the point. Honor, promises, signed a treaty. You gotta leave. You gotta go out far away to do a thing before you come back home. And that could be atoning. That could be a monk's training. That could be a rogue needing to meet a rival crime lord and give them their due. It doesn't matter what it is, but duty calls, and the players, yeah, duty. I'm a little child. Yeah. Sometimes the players are called away for some reason, and why are they away? Because of reasons. Right? Down below, to the very left, we have existential global event. Now, it doesn't the word global doesn't need to be global, but maybe there's some kind of threat much larger than the homestead, the bastion, the city-state the players are at. Maybe because the players are big and powerful, maybe a meteor, a comet is going to strike. Maybe there's a dimensional rift that's going to sweep fiendish creatures across the entire landscape. This is the extraplanar, high-level adventuring that only the players can deal with, and they've got to leave home to deal with that thing. You know, yes, the players slayed a dragon and save the community, and the dragon skull is in a town square and everyone feels cool, until they realize that the migration of the dragons is coming and thousands of dragons are sweeping through the region, and the players need to go out and divert, stop, whatever, because of the dragon orb that summoned them here again, or whatever, something like that. To the very, very right, we have the dungeon crawl, and lastly, we have leave, vacation, and pass the crown. So we have our classic dungeon crawl to the very right, upper right, and that is players leave their home to go on a classic dungeon crawl. They go back out adventuring again. Maybe they miss it. Maybe there was a secret passage or a notation that they found, or the wizard uncovers a secret document in some old texty, dusty books that the wizard now, since the wizard's semi-retired, is able to uncover, and they realize, you know what? Remember that dungeon when we went down to the 11th level and we air quotes retired? Well, maybe, just maybe, there was more passages and it goes to 20th level. And so they pack up their stuff and the players leave for an extended period of time, and they go on a classic adventuring dungeon crawl. Now the dungeon crawl doesn't need to be down in a dungeon crawling. Maybe they go on a spelljammer ship that takes them to a distant land and they really want to get back home, but they can't get back home because they're going to lead enemies to their new home, and so they need to stop that enemy so that they don't even find out where the players are home is located. And then lastly, we have vacation, leave, and pass the crown. Maybe the players want to go on vacation, or they take an extended leave. Maybe they just get bored, or they don't want to be project managers anymore because they don't feel, they're rolling their eyes every time yet another person talks to them about how someone is stealing their cattle, or people are making really bad neighbors with each other, and they're complaining about the noise levels and whatnot, and the players are just rolling their eyes like, okay, trash disposal, water rights, someone's leaving their equipment in the alley behind their house, and they're complaining, and the police are just like, really? So they just want to leave all that. Maybe the players are there temporarily could be weeks, months, years, dozens of years, but really they're there to pass the crown to the nobility that really should be there. Or maybe they want to pass the leadership to one of their NPCs, because the NPC is a much better project manager than the players ever could be. Maybe the players are like, I don't want to be a third level project manager. Why am I getting experience points for filling out paperwork, right? And so they're like, listen, NPC, you really love this stuff. We want to go hit things about the head and shoulders with weapons and spells. So once you're ready, we're going to pass the crown to you and then move on. So here we have, I decided to make a D20 thing here, and it's basically it's the equivalent of everything that was written here before, right? It's all of those things. D20 table, and let's see if I can put this up very slowly here. Let's see. Let's go back. See what you guys have to say. Ian, hey, what's going on there? What's up? We've never really talked. We've got to hook up. Yeah, Ian Butler says useful diagram, great food for thought. Yeah, I put it together. I don't know. It had me thinking. Whatever. What time is it where I'm at? It's almost 7. I'm on the east. I'm Eastern Standard Time. I'm in Central Ohio. But yeah. So anyway, this is the D20 list for people who don't really like diagrams and whatnot. I like the visualization portion of it, but yeah, Bastion level adventuring when players are at home. It's flipping the script. Instead of the hero's journey, it's more about the heroine's labyrinth. Yes, I'm bringing up the heroine's labyrinth. For those who don't know, I have interviewed, and I really like the concept of the heroine's labyrinth by Douglas Burton, and you should really check it out. It flips the script on the hero's journey about staying home, and the I'm going to call it literary framework in stories that involve the heroine who stays at home. Now, the heroine or heroine that stays home doesn't have to be female, but it tends to involve when the hero, the male counterpart, goes out adventuring and leaves home. And we've seen those stories. What happens when you stay home and stuff. So, yep. Ian Butler and I've been in the same circles for a long time. Back in probably back in the RPG Brigade days, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, on this D20 level here, D20 table here, for home incidences to spark adventure for hooks. So we have building and construction and assemble for number 1. That is a bridge needs to be built, an aqueduct needs to be built, a castle wall needs to be built, and the player characters are there. Now, they could just be there for defensive measures, like, all right, Dwarven League, you build it, and we're just going to make sure that the stuff gets there. The players themselves may be very good at the thing, but we also want to know, like, where is it being built? It's all the who, what, where, whens, and whys, right? Are you building it on a sacred land? How long will it take to build it before the winter snows come in, or the tides rise, or the next season rolls in and it'll be much harder to build that wall in the winter than it would be in the springtime or something. Next, we have weather and geological events. Very common amongst every population of all of us around the world. Where do you live? What are the weather events around you? How easy is it for you to deal with those things? How hard is it? Are the player characters and their people new to this uncharted region that has strange weather and geological events? Or have the players moved in? Are the players newbies, but the people are like, dude, we already know what's when the winter comes in. We know about how to stay warm with making igloos and whatnot. You know what I mean? Or you're down in the accursed desert. I had to figure out how to bring in the accursed desert. I realized. So the players are building a haven around an oasis down in the accursed desert, and the desert people are like, no, let us show you about sandstorms and quicksand and how to find water sources and things of that nature. Maybe there are certain plants like cacti or something like that hold lots of water, and their roots go down deep, and that's where you get your water source. And the PCs are like, oh. Next, we have disease, pestilence, and curses, and medicine. Getting medicine from one place to another is a great fetch quest style adventure, because the enemy doesn't need to do hit points to you. All they have to do is steal the antidote, or the thing that will cure the people of their affliction. And maybe the battle is over where that is. Maybe there's a special flower that grows somewhere, or there's an apothecary or an herbalist that the players need to protect to bring them back to a place, or they need enough medicines or herbs and spices to do everything it can. I'm one person. I can't heal everyone. What are we going to do? Or even detective work, finding out that, it wasn't the rats that are biting people. It's the rats that are eating the food that's poisoned, because the poison food came from a distant land, and that distant land has something that interacts with the people here and is diseased. So we're going to have to cut off trade relations with those people temporarily, even though for them, it doesn't affect them the same way. And you get the snowball rolling. Aftermath, repair, recovery is a hook. Shelter, food, water, harvest, spices are always a hook. Any threats to that, and the players have to deal with that. War, battle, skirmishes, conflicts, traditional martial stuff players may have to deal with. Let's move this down a little bit. Spies, infiltration, sabotage, and threats of that nature. Some of those threats could just be like proverbially spray painted on walls, flyers, sycophantic cultish individuals, of course the doppelgangers, the illusionists, the literal spy network that's under the noses of the player characters, or the player characters. Listen, players are going to want to love to do this. Maybe they are spies in another land because the other land is threatening the place where they live. We have arts, legacy, society, tradition, rights, do the players make their own new traditions? Are there traditions here that they respect or don't respect, and how does that affect the society? Many times conflict happens when people have a tradition that the newbies like me that are visiting don't understand the importance of that, and it may ethically or morally offend me from a distant land, but for these people it's okay. If you've seen the televised version of the latest version of Shogun, it's a perfect example of that, in terms of the ritualistic suicide that's part of their culture, and the players try to get rid of that. Are they destroying their own ability to create a stable society? Fetch questing, leaving out, go and get the magic item, bring it back. That's very common, right? They need to bring it back. It doesn't have to be magic. It could be like, oh, what's the thing? A crown jewels or something of that nature, right? We can't pass the crown. We can't pass. We can't have a coronation without the crown jewels. And the PCs are like, dude, I can magically summon up some crown jewels. I can make fake ones if you want. And they're like, nope, no. We need the actual crown and rod that the evil lich has in order for us to, pass on the leadership or something. PCs can act as proxy acts, rescue, protection, travel. This is where like the player characters are doing a thing because another nation can't do it, and they're like acting as a proxy for them. And then of course rescue, protection, travel, the usual stuff: trade routes, nobles, merchants, just regular old people, refugees, traveling from a distant land that were besieged by those damn dragons. And the player characters go, okay, well first let's protect them, make sure they get to our home, find them a place to live and stay. It's not their fault. Then we'll go out and go after the dragon. Unless you want to do something more modern, in which case, hey, the dragon's attacking your land, that's your damn fault, and we don't want you here. You could play it like that as well. Of course, the cleansing and eradication of monsters, magic, whatever, consecrate a place. We have number 12, diplomacy, trade, parley, and exchange events, and of course terrible things happen there. We have crime, vices, vandalism, drugs happening in your bastion, and why is that happening, and then stopping those things. We have of course arcana, ritual, spells, magic power that could be unleashed, or someone is using a dark powers to try to get themselves some kind of influence or power over the player characters, or there's a dark cult that's into this, or maybe the Bastion itself was built over a place with dark tidings or something. Of course, you have to have cults, factions, faith, political influence going against the player characters. We have coin, guild, wealth, basically, nobles, merchants, and their issues, and placating their desires, as well as ensuring that they have the free reign. And heck, if you have an egalitarian society, how do the nobles react when they realize that the people over there can vote? What is this nonsense? And whatnot. Oh, thanks there, dude. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Of course, in the last four, we've got duty, promises, allies, unions. This is the player characters are called to. They're called for a function, right? Maybe the player characters are drawn to help someone else because they made a promise to do a thing. They need to help their allies. Their allies are trapped behind enemy lines. Their allies are starving, or they are cold. Their land suffered a weather or geological event, or an enemy is punishing the PC's allies because the enemy knows the player characters are too powerful. Then we have existential global events. The George R.R. Martin, right? The red comet went through the air and now things are different, and the players are like, I know what this means. That means what was the one created? Plane Breaker. That's it. Plane Breaker was a Monty Cook release where literally rogue planetoid is breaking through the different planes of existence, shattering the very parts of reality through plane to plane to plane. And the player characters are like, all right, you average lowly folk down there, I understand you don't know what the hell's going on, but we need to take care of this and we need to leave you for temporarily. And then we have classic dungeon crawling. Players have to leave home, go to dungeon crawl, come back. Maybe the dungeon is literally underneath their bastion and they didn't realize there were even more levels, because as a game master I didn't even create them yet, but you get the point, right? They're like yeah, I'm always thank you. And then we have vacation coronations, pass the torch, and that is maybe the player characters are like, you know what, this is kind of boring. I don't really want to do this anymore. What is it? I thought I wanted to be a game designer, but instead I became an accountant and a layout artist and a project manager and an editor and and all those. You end up having to put on more hats than you thought you would need to. And so the players are like, nah, let's pass the torch on. Now, it could be temporary, right? Like, hey, great heroes, take over this distant part of my kingdom, and in 8 months' time, I will have assembled a suitable council of people to take over. But temporarily, you run this place. And so that may be a thing. And thank you very much for saying that. They're a member of the Shy Squad. Yeah. I come up with these organizational. Let's go back to this one. I come up with these things on the fly because I like them. I mean, usually it takes me about, if I have to be honest, it takes me 10 to 15 minutes to come up with it, and then I just have to visualize it and then just put it together, and I've been able to figure that out. But yeah. So anyway, I thought I would share that out. So we are at the end of the show. As a matter of fact, I do want to share something else out. I got my birthday just came up. I went axe throwing. That was very fun. My very first time doing axe throwing. Really, if you've never done axe throwing, and like another thing I've never done, I've never done an escape room. But I've done axe throwing. It's really fun. I really like it. And found out that I'm actually relatively good at it. So, yeah. But got myself a soundboard. So, all the funky sounds and the voices and things like that allows me to duck out the music in the background, because I know some people don't particularly like that. But yeah. DIY dystopia is vaguely in ties with... Yeah. Maybe we'll take us out on that. As a matter of fact, if you don't mind me sharing such a thing out. Now, if they would only let me copy and paste it, then I would be able to get to it, and it won't. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it won't let me do it. Stupid. Oh, well, thank you very much. Happy birthday. It was actually the 16th, but did it on 17th. Wife took me axe throwing. That was really cool. Awesome. Yeah. So everybody, by the way, for those who don't know, Shy Squad is a musical group. I don't know. Have I never actually said this out loud? But you should check them out. Yeah, I loved it. I didn't think I would like it, to be honest with you, the whole axe throwing thing. And then when I started, I was like, this is kind of cool. And then I just happened to be good at it. I don't know where the hell. I'm not particularly strong or consider myself to be accurate, but when I was a kid, I used to love archery. And every year we have the Ohio State Fair, and we have a nature center, and they have like an archery thing over there. My wife always lets me go over there and have some fun. No big if you can't share it. I just wanted to get cheeky and spam the link. Nah, you're all right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to... Let's see if I can put this up at the top. There we go. I pinned it up at the top so people can check it out. It should be pinned. Ooh, now I'm rubbing my eye. Sorry about that. All right. And also, if if your eye is really good. I've got a new camera too, so I really like that. I really appreciate that though. So guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Ooh, something is in my eye. It's making me cry. I really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For everyone that stopped by, please spread the word if for people who, like, share, subscribe, follow, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. But it defeats the algo monsters, and I've been battling the algo monsters for a while now, and so yeah. Oh, knife. See, they have knife throwing too. I can see that's really hard as fuck, right? Real throwing knives are big and heavy. Archery is relatively okay though. Yeah, like I said, I'm not very accurate myself, and didn't think I would even enjoy the axe throwing thing. Maybe it was beginner's luck. That's always a possibility too. But yeah, but I really enjoy the idea of archery, like the whole zen of it. I don't want to kill things, but I just like I like the idea of having those skills and whatnot. I was joking. I said, if we all get, there were like 5 or 6 of us. I said, if we all get good at axe throwing, we won't have to worry about the zombie apocalypse. And they were like, what? It's like, never mind. You guys don't game. I'm a gamer. You guys don't. But you get the point. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. If this castle, retirement, fortification, taking care of a home city, putting players in one place and adventuring in that one place is something that you're interested in, please share this out to them so that someone can get an idea. If there are people who are looking to find this diagram, maybe I'll share it somewhere. If you guys want me to share it, just let me know, and maybe I'll make a copy of it. As a matter of fact, let's see if I can do this here. Share. All right, so I'm gonna download the image, and maybe I'll upload it somewhere or send it to somebody, or you guys tell me. You let me know. I don't know. Yeah. What's tomorrow, Tuesday? Tomorrow is AbTab Tuesday. Tomorrow is Absolute Tabletop Tuesday. We will focus on something. I am deciding whether I want to do adventure kits or one-page games, and I'm not certain yet. I'll probably do the adventure kits from Absolute Tabletop. They've given me a safe place and a great place to have engaged in the tabletop role-playing games that I like. And despite as large as the Absolute Tabletop group is, it's really, really positive, and I really like that, so I wanted to give back. So tomorrow's Absolute Tabletop Tuesday. Wednesdays are kind of like are reserved for projects that I'm working on. I am currently working with Mark Tassin and others, Owen KC Stevens and Eloy Lasanta and others, in creating Cool Name Goes Here tabletop role-playing game, which is going to be given away for free. I'll also be in a live gaming session of that game. I'm not sure if it's going to be recorded or not, but that's up to them. And then, and that's Wednesday. And then Thursday is A5E. It is Advanced 5th Edition, or technically Level Up Advanced 5th Edition, which I was part of that large project, created from N-World, and those are Thursdays. And then Friday is Future Friday, where we get to talk about science fiction and all that kind of stuff. Woo! Got that out the way. So really appreciate it. You guys. Have a great one. I will see thee tomorrow. Have a great one. For some reason, my streaming software, my streaming company has reset all of my things, so I don't even have my outro that I particularly like. So I'm going to send you out on my science fiction outro, since I really love it, and it does showcase Obsidian Star, which is the tabletop role-playing science fiction game that I've been working on, and I finally got the mechanism down. I finally have the win-loss progress setback system down and the dice mechanic down and whatnot. And then now I just need to figure out how to, it's all in outline form and I have to fill it out. So you guys have a great one. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great one. See you later. Peace and tranquility. Bye.